Dude, the Discord formatting like needs to get better. Like it's getting more confusing over time, not less confusing over time.
Looks like we're all set now. Welcome in everybody to the September Axie Town Hall. My name is Ryan. I'll be sort of navigating the conversation here. I'm joined by two of our amazing founders, Jiho and Trung. Jiho, would you like to say a few words about yourself?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the September Town Hall. I'm Jiho. I'm a co-founder of Sky Mavis. And yeah, excited to be here. I'm actually here in Vietnam. So I believe I was in Vietnam actually the last time we did the town hall. So it's becoming a little bit of a tradition where when I come to Vietnam, it's a great time to hang out with Trung and do these while we're both in the same area. So yeah, excited to chat today. And thanks for hosting, Brian.
Absolutely. I'm hoping here, maybe in the near future, there'll be a time when maybe all three of us are in Vietnam doing this town hall together. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
I heard that you may
Trung,
be coming, right? So hit me
oh,
up, ping me about that. Actually, we can discuss logistics.
fingers crossed. Trung, would you like to say a few words?
Hi, you guys. So finally, we have a chance to sit out together again, physically in Vietnam, so that we can discuss with you guys what have happened and also what to expect in the Axie world. So yeah, happy to meet all the familiar faces again.
Wonderful. I'm sure everyone's happy to have us all here. These town halls are always very informative, and hopefully maybe even a few leaks in the near future. I'd like to jump right into discussing some of the recent accomplishments within Axie. And Gio, maybe you can take it away from here.
Yeah, I mean, so what we're seeing is that there is actually a rising tide within Axie recently. It's morning again in Lunacia. And so what are some of the things that have caused this to happen? And so I think one of the things that has changed this year is we've gone back to our roots a bit when it comes to like how we build, how we deliver, how we ship products. So I think you may have seen this, right, where we have this pretty consistent pattern where we will, right, leak something way before it's actually released, talk about how it is planned to work, and then we gather feedback, right? You guys are great at refining things that we want to do and poking holes in some of our ideas. We really appreciate that, and it actually helps make the products a lot better. So you can see, a lot of examples around this, right? Around metamorphosis, around a lot of the homeland updates, where right, we'll say what our plan is, and then you guys we'll say that's mostly good, or yeah, that sounds relatively good, but here are some things that we anticipate being painful from our perspective as players, and then we're able to use that to make the final, right, the release, not the final release, but when it actually hits production, it makes it into a much smoother and better release. And so I think right like that is a mindset change and that we've conscientiously made this year. And it's not like, oh, we're evolving into this. Actually, it's actually we're going really back to our roots because this is how we used to build in the beginning days of Sky Mavis.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Sort of systematically figuring out how to iterate, because I think no one wants to be stagnant. And by the way, I do want to mention to everybody that there was a Q&A form before the town hall goes out. And we've got a lot of questions from that Q&A form I'll be answering at the end of the town hall. So stay tuned for that, and always look out for those Q&A forms in the future as well. But let's jump over to Axie Classic for now. Axie Classic, we just hit competitive season 5, and there's been a lot of hype around it too.
Yeah, sure. So, and Trung, maybe you want to talk a little bit about Classic and what you've seen as exciting in Classic recently.
Mhm. So when I first discussed with Paladin, the current product manager of Classic, we want to think about a format so that it's like different from Origins, not only for the sake of doing things differently, but also to make sure that people don't have to grind the whole season, right? I think it create a lot of friction, right? When people seems to know a lot about the meta already and they don't have new things to try, so that kill off some of the activities. So we want people, right, to see competition as an opportunities, as a chance, so that they can compete. So that's why we thought about, right, having the leaderboard as a part of the like qualifiers, right, for the tournaments, and then we can have, right, people on the leaderboard so that we feed people into those tournaments that they can compete with others from the same relatively the same ranking. So that's the thought process behind, right, the structure of the tournaments, arena and tournaments in Classic, and the interactions with the leaderboard. So instead of, right, having to climb the leaderboard for the whole season, we want to add a little bit of layers on top of the leaderboard. Yeah, we are also, right, experimenting and pushing physical events, right, LAN events in Philippines. I don't think that, right, Classic is like, for sure we have players all around the world, but for sure we have the largest player base in Philippines. Classic is like one of the like iconic blockchain games in Philippines already. So pushing more on this side with the Philippines audience, I think it helps a lot with like the engagement from the players, because sometimes it's not only about the activities behind the screen. You also want to meet other people. You also want to find the personal connection that you have with the games and the friends that you and the guild member, all the teammates that you have felt within the game. So I think this like create a lot of engagement that we want to push for more. And also the fact that we, right, constantly um, host and host LAN events in Philippines, it also helps with the efficiency, because then we don't have to like move around too much and then find different uh, agencies and parties to host in a relatively new like local areas. When it's only in Philippines, I think we can really concentrate and also optimize the efficiency. So yeah, that leads to the decision as we see right now. And I believe we are into the fifth competitive season, right? With a well, I think it's a fair amount of, I guess, right, a good prize pool for people so that they can enjoy the game even more, but with some like cherry on top of what they have already.
Yeah, we're coming back, right? It's now we're coming up to the first anniversary of the revival, right? Of Classic, right? And it's the fifth season. I think like the first right version, I guess, of Classic went for maybe 23 or 23 seasons. So 2021. So
20.
now, yeah. So maybe now we're in like over 25 right, all-time seasons of Classic. So it's iconic, right? It onboarded millions, and I think the community sees that we're giving it the attention that it deserves, right? That was also something that you guys really wanted, and I think like Classic is alive. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm personally, right, for me, I'm using my lunch team. I like the daily tournaments because I'm not someone who, I'm not going to play so consistently over the course of the season, right? I have to travel, right? Some life gets in the way. But for me, so like I like the daily tournament because I can come in, play, and right, like I have like this kind of there's closure, right? I start and finish, and it's not something that is just like a continuous thing that I have to do every single day for months. And for me, that fits my play style, right? So, and I think that's an important consideration. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I've been enjoying it. Also, artifacts, right? Like, I think a shout out to Elijah. Got to shout out the Classic and one of the goats of Classic, to be honest. And he's back on YouTube making great content. So definitely, right, if you want to understand like the artifact mechanic, and we do get a lot of questions around this. It's spicy, right? But it is more effective if you know how to use it. And Elijah has made a great guide on YouTube. So if you want to learn about artifact, I'm focusing you on that YouTube video from Elijah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people. I don't think when Axie Classic first shut down, what was it, almost 2 years ago? I don't think anyone could have possibly imagined where it would be today, and the way it has evolved, and the fact that there's so many ways to play and earn. You can focus on whatever aspect of the game you want to focus on while playing the same game that you love. Whether it's mini tournaments or the guild leaderboard or golden wheel, yeah, it's really fantastic. But let's move over from Axie Classic into Homeland, because we've seen a number of changes within Homeland recently as well.
Yeah, I mean, so Homeland, right? With Homeland, we had obviously a very rocky and bad start to the year, but I believe that we are making great progress, right, on everything that we outlined in the founder's note. I think you see that we're committed to delivering it, and we've crossed off almost everything on that list, right? And so we had avatar mode, right, which finally brought social features to Homeland. We revamped Moonbeam and the Moonfall systems, and as well, right? Like we have added AXP, and we've added integration of your actual NFT Axies, right? Believe it or not, that wasn't the case at the beginning of the year, right? And uh, I think like for me, like actually Homeland is like a AXP printing machine. Like I literally have so many axes that need to be ascended, right? Due to Homeland. So I'm like waiting for the mass ascension button, just like you guys. I think that will come with delegation, hopefully later this month if everything goes according to plan. Yeah, and then we've also, right, like we've also integrated Homeland into the Premier Bounty Board. Luna's Landing, right? Luna landing plots have been minted, right? So this is like a promise delivered after five plus years. So yeah, I think there have also been a fair number of quality of life updates. I know that there's still more to go, but yeah, I think the next thing that is really on the menu, right, for Homeland is the integration of Axes into the adventure mode. And so we've put out some information on how that is going to work. With your feedback, we've also made adjustments to our plans, and how that will look when it's finally shipped. I think like most notably, right, and this is an example of our new way of shipping things. Systematic iteration, right? Building in public, and taking your feedback really into account at a point in development where we can actually change it before it's live. Right. So, you guys had expressed some concerns around passive adventure not going live, right? Or Axie integration into passive adventure needing delegation, right? This is something where delegation really unlocks this feature. Without delegation, this feature actually becomes a huge pain in the butt. I know I had Cairo and many others, right, like on us about that. So basically, the plan, right? If everything goes according to plan, these things will ship basically together, or Axie passive adventure, right, will not be live without delegation, right? So we kind of see these as a bit of a package deal. Yeah, anything to mention on Homeland, Trung?
So yeah, I think looking a little bit backward, we have learned a lot, right? Since the beginning of the year, I think many of the lessons are not only applied to Homeland, but also applied to other games, the way that we build game and features. So I think it's a good improvement, but also at the same time, right? I think innovation only comes from, right, having enough of feedback to make sure that we have enough analysis behind the scenes, and then come with a breakthrough in terms of, right, ideas and execution. So we hope to build even more with that mindset. And yeah, I do think that the event, even though it's like nice man since the beginning of the years already, I think it has like catastrophic effects on the whole kind of development of the Axie world. So that's how I think about it.
Mm.
Yeah, I think the narratives really started to shift with a lot of these changes, and with the Axie delegation system upcoming as well. Little leak for the future. I'm sure that'll be very appreciated feature upon launch. But let's jump over from Homeland now to Origins, the third game in the Axie family. And some of the features that we've pushed out this year, and maybe some that we have coming for the future as well.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Rogue, the roguelike mode. All right, so what is the principle behind roguelike, and why do we want to experiment with something that's more PvE? Well, actually, we always talked about in the early days how Origins was very much inspired by Slay the Spire. Well, guess what? Slay the Spire is actually a roguelike PvE game. It's actually not PvP. Actually, to be honest, right, if we're hard on ourselves, a lot of the biggest problems about Origins actually you can find on Reddit when people ask about PvP for Slay the Spire, right? It actually anticipates a lot of like some of the complicated things about Origins. So it wasn't an idea, right, to say, hey, right, actually this type of game might be very well suited, as demonstrated by Slay the Spire for PvE. So let's put something out. Let's put out a prototype, an MVP, to see what the response is, right? Whether there's anything to this thought. And so yeah, we put it out. We're still processing, right, a lot of the feedback, because we did put out a feedback form. But the reviews that we've read and that we've seen so far are positive. We had over 30,000 people try out the roguelike mode. And also remember, there were no tokenized rewards. You actually did have to pay or spend stamina in order to access the mode. It was difficult too. I think one of the fun things that I really enjoyed was, this was hard. Only 215 players were able to beat all 3 levels. I only beat 2. So yeah, I think also like the difficulty was interesting and relatively well tuned. And yeah, so we'll have the rewards for the roguelike event distributed this week if everything goes according to plan, as well as the roguelike race winners. And yeah, I also want to take this moment to give a special shout out to Nietzsche. Nietzsche was, I believe, the first in the world to actually complete the mode. She was also the best content creator for the mode. So Nietzsche is one of the unsung heroes in our community, right? She's always consistently at the top of the Discord analytics when it comes to like how many conversations she's starting, how many questions she's answering, how many messages she's writing. So both in terms like quantitative and qualitative analysis and stats, like she is one of the most important people in the community. She's also one of the best players, and she's also one of the best educators. So Nietzsche, if you're watching this, I just want to congratulate you on everything that you've accomplished. You're really important to the community, and we will be gifting you a Origin Axie. And this is from a stash that was gifted to us, actually by Coco, to reward community members like you for special achievements and accomplishments. So yeah, thank you, Nietzsche. An awesome job on the roguelike mode. So yeah, anything to add on roguelike or PvE, Trung?
So I think when it comes to PvE, there's one way, right? A lot of content demand, even though, right, the world create the concept of roguelike with the high level of replayability, so that it like lessen the pressure on creating a lot of content, right? Even with that, I think PV still need a lot of content, and for roguelike it requires a lot of turning. tuning to make sure that we get to a good level of difficulties so that people feel progression, but also at the same time like feel challenging when they play the game mode. So I think there's still a lot to go for the roguelike mode. At the same time, right, it's also easy to compare the mode with other game mode and competition, because in those other modes you actually gain rewards, right? So I mean, if we talk about the amount of effort and time that you want to spend playing any kind of Axie experience, then people would prioritize, right, playing other experience. Maybe it's not as much fun, but it gives rewards. So I think that's some competition. I could say healthy competition, but also at the same time, like create some sort of hidden elements when we want to try out new things. But yeah, I think the principle is the same. We don't want to scale the rewards too early, because might create a false perception in when we read the data. So yeah, I think roguelike mode is promising, but it only comes with the right amount of investment, right? So I don't think that it's for the initial release. It's good, and let's see how that can advance even more within the Origins game.
I was having a lot of fun, right? Because for me, right, like it seemed like Metamorph and Roguelike actually came at kind of simultaneously during the last off season. So I had a really great experience where I was able to, right, morph my 3 favorite Mystic Reptile Axies into a Spike team. And they were, pretty viable in the roguelike mode. I don't think they were the best. I think like the best for actually completing the mode was like Beast, maybe like Rage Beast or Nutcracker Beast, but it's still very viable, right? And I was having a lot of fun, right, farming XP. I was showing it to my friends too. I was showing, like, Arctic came over, Cloud White, right? Like, and they were like, "Wow, like you're actually able to use, right, your Mystic Axes, and it's casual, right? Like you can do other stuff while you're playing. It's not like PvP in Classic or even Origins, right, where it can be really hard to multitask, right? I'm someone I'm working a lot, to be honest. So, it's something like Origins PV is a little bit more conducive, right, to my to the way that I can interact or forward from a time perspective with the Axie products. So yeah, it was, for me, that was also right cool, where I was playing PV for fun, right? Mainly getting AXP, some of the emotes, there's some of the runes and charms. Dude, did I spend all of my? I don't think I spent all my points. Um, anyway, so uh, yeah, so I think it was a good fit for me. And so I think that, like, kind of right smoothly brings us into the next topic, right, Ryan?
Right, which you just touched on just a little bit, which came out right at the same time as Roguelike, which is a Metamorph, which is now bringing so much utility and gameplay to a lot of these collectible axes.
Cool, cool. Yeah, maybe Trung can start us off with Metamorph.
How did Metamorph get started? I have a feeling that I thought about that, but I'm not really sure.
There was actually, like, there was a time, right, where we were very, very active in the Mystic channel, right? And I think, like, we were, right, like, people were saying, "Hey, we want to use our Mystics," right? And I think, like, thinking through with a lot of the Mystic owners, right? Like, what are the different options, right, for making Mystics viable, right? One is obviously just make them freaking overpowered and super strong, but that also, right, can that's also complex, right? And the other is just to make them, right, like, yeah, more give them supreme optionality, right? That's kind of, like, I think, like the path for Metamorph.
Yeah. Well, the real story actually started like much earlier than that. At the beginning. If you still remember what we wrote when we released the Axie website the first time, when we didn't really have any game, right? We also talk about Mystic with some, I would say, highest tier of utilities that you can bring the Mystic Axes to any experience and then expected to have an edge in those competition, in those experience. And there's two ways to scale the utility of Mystic Axie, right? The first one could be power, making sure that Mystic Axes and some other collectible Axes are stronger than other Axes in the power scaling. And that's sometimes only viable in PvE mode when you go against the mobs, right? So that it's not a zero sum game of feeling, right? When you feel that you are owning in PvP, the other side might feel bad, right? Because they feel like they cannot do anything against a collectible Axie. So in PvE, it's more than zero sum for sure, because you can right just host the mobs in any way you want. And the other option is flexibilities, right? Making sure that Mystic Axie is flexible, right? They are they have like a wide range of utilities in many team compositions, so that you can bring Mythic Axes to different experience, right? And yeah, while I have to admit I was playing down in the Mystic Mountain channel to make sure that I can gather the unbiased opinions from people when I talk about Mystic Axis and what we can do to Mystic. I think we had some opinions at that time, but yeah, to make sure that we run the validation through you guys without putting any prior opinions to cause even more bias. I think it's and it went really well. I think eventually we come up with a good these seasons, right? Also a good middle ground to make sure that we also add a little bit of power for Mystic utility without making it too OP. I don't think that flexibility has it's very future proof, because in any game mode you can basically implement that without hurting the integrity of any competition. So yeah, that's to add some thought process behind why we asked you guys and also came up with the final design of Metamorph. We also want to experiment first within Origins, obviously, right? This is something that we can implement at the FC core level, so that we can bring Metamorph to any games, right? Like I said, it's future proof. For sure, you can bring Metamorph to any games without violating any rules of the game. But we want to see it in action first, right? We want to see it in a game with the most complex composition of Axie body parts. You need to utilize like 7 parts if you also include the Axie body, right? So that's why Metamorph is the most needed things in Origins. In Classic is only 5 parts, so 4 body parts and the body, right? The body class. So it's I mean, people still find good utility for Mystic in Classic. So that could come a little bit later. So that also show an example of trying to experiment more with something before we force it over all the games. Development time is one thing, right? But also making sure that people have enough time to digest the features release, so that they know how it works, and also we gather enough data and iterate further. It's a very important mindset moving forward. And as you have seen already, right? The release of Metamorph have direct impact on the price of collectible Axies, right? Most notably, Mystic Axie for price went from like 2.5 ETH something to 6 plus ETH currently. So I do think that, right, as collectible owners, not only that we want to, right, see more earnings. I do think that earnings is a valid utility for NFT, but at the same time, as we develop more personal connections with our collectibles, we also want them to gain more utility, right? And I mean, on the other hand, that could also means more value to the collectibles, and values could be related to price in some way. But I think it's more sustainable, it's more healthy, right? Because then it's justified the value instead of just right making it a very simple equation of taking right earning as an input. So I think that's they explain why we want to do more with right utility
Mm.
um, for collectibles.
Yeah, I think it's great. We're seeing right like big spikes in collectible Axie volume, not just with Mystic Madness taking over Lunacia, especially over the weekend. Shout out to everybody right who picked up Mystics. I believe we have more than 12 Mystic sales within the last 30 days. It's been a while since we could say that, right? I think we're actually starting to see high-end NFTs start to move a little bit. You also saw a bunch of big CryptoPunk sales over the weekend. And actually, for those who were there, I know Odin will remember this. Mystic Axies and CryptoPunks actually went up. Where they're actually the first. They were the two like premium NFTs on Ethereum that first went up right in 2020. Actually, like foreshadowing right this huge NFT run. But they were the first two like premium NFTs to start to move. And kind of like start this bottoming process for NFTs in the last cycle. So I'm someone who likes to look at like pattern recognition and macro in markets. And that's something that I noticed as an interesting thing over the weekend. So yeah, Mystic Axie's now, closing in on 10 ETH. I think only a couple, more before 5 Mystics until 10 ETH. Obviously, floor price is it's only one thing, but it can be indicative of what's happening in the ecosystem and kind of symbolic, right? Of how people are feeling about Axie. So it is important in that way. We must understand, right, the times that we live in, the market that we live in, the products that we're building. So yeah, shout out to Mystic Mountain. And then, if you don't have a Mystic, I hope that you become blessed enough to eventually one day have one. Okay,
not
yeah. Also, where like another thing, right, is like it's not just Mystic Axies that have been helped by Metamorphosis. Origins, right? Origins also seeing a lot of volume. Mios, right? Mios are slept on for this, but Reptile Mio, Bird Mio, Bug Mio. These are actually having a lot of utility right now as well, right? Because you can morph five parts on a Mio. And that's a lot, right? So you get like I just saw like a poison reptile, right? It had small frill, it was a Mio, boom, like you can basically make that into a perfect poison Axie. Or even like a spike Axie. And right, like at a relatively, nice price point. So yeah, that's
There's also one
um,
principles for Axie, right? Obviously, because Axie is not like robots, so that you cannot replace their body parts easily. So we always want people to see Axie as a whole, right? Not replacing any parts. But I do think that right, as logical as it sound, also adds some complexity on top of right utilizing Axies in different games, because when you want to really deeply integrate Axie with the games, right, with the beauty of body parts composition, it also gets harder, right, because it's tricky to find right an Axie with the perfect body parts composition so that you can fully utilize the Axie inside the games. So we thought about that a lot when we was designing Metamorph, because it also right not only change the dynamic of collectible Axies and Axies in general, but it also right change the Axie body part in some way, at least like having some options for people to change the body part of collectible Axies. If you really think about the core of it, right? It's changing the body part. But yeah, I do think that at the end of the day, right, being willing to change some principles if they are not a good fit for the Axie ecosystem, it's important.
Yeah,
I think we've hit a great balance between power and versatility without being overly powered, and I've been seeing a ton of great reception on it, so I'm really not surprised that Mystics are flying off the shelf.
But I will say, right, in terms
yeah.
of actually making collectible Axies stronger, there will be some experiences where that might be better, right? That is the case in Homeland, right? And basically, the new Axie powered adventure system. The more collectible an Axie is, actually the stronger it will be in that mode, just straight up, right? So that's also right, like more of a PvE system, right? So that's kind of like one of the principles, right? In a PvE system, there's a bit more flexibility to kind of unleash from a power perspective some of these special Axies. All right, let's talk about like one of my favorite topics. One of my favorite topics is play to rice, play for protein, aka the Axie bounty board. And okay, so I think you guys know about the bounty board, right? The bounty board is actually something that we just shipped earlier this year, right? So we have the standard bounty board, and then we have the premium bounty board, right? So we got play to rice, and then we got play for protein, right? You got one is the standard bounty board, right? Pray to Atia, play one game of Classic, play one game of Origins. It's very kind of basic actions within the Axie ecosystem. Whereas the Premier Bounty Board, right, is more complex, right? Deeper quests within the Axie ecosystem, with also more benefits for owning more special collectible Axies, right? And the Premier Bounty Board, you can actually re-roll the quests that you're getting. Re-rolling those quests requires slips, right? So the more slips you have, because the more collectible Axies you have, right, the better quests on average you'll be getting. Of course, right, also owning more stuff within the Axie universe, right, becoming more attached to this ecosystem, becoming a better citizen in a lot of ways, right? Like that will open up opportunities for you, right? Like I know that in the Sky Mavis office, I'm always getting messages, Jihoz, can you like help me with this quest? I need to evolve a shiny Axie. That's always like the one that people hit me up about. I need to evolve a shiny Axie, I need to evolve a Christmas Axie, etc. Right? So the more stuff you have, right, the more popular you're gonna be, and the better off you're gonna be with the PBB. So yeah, congratulations, Lunacia. We have officially broken 101,000 weekly participants in the bounty board. Let's go to 120K. That's one of Scott Davis's goals for the rest of the next couple of months. So let's send it to 120,000. That is my challenge to us. Okay. Yeah. So basically, yeah, we passed 100,000. You're also seeing a big increase in the Axie Infinity related transactions. That's also, of course, great for Axie, great for the Ronin ecosystem, which we are all a part of. And yeah, basically the daily active addresses within the Axie universe also has been catapulting and increasing very steadily since the release of the standard bounty board back in April. Remember, we're here not just to make a fun game, not just to make a game that has real world opportunities. We're here to create products that can introduce the world to blockchain technology, right? Blockchain, we believe, is the most important innovation of our generation, right? This is one of the things that our generation has the unique and special opportunity to play a role in the adoption of this technology for all of humanity. And this is a technology that can really help people all over the world, right? Via digital property rights, right? You see in the world now a lot of bad things happening, right? Countries having really high inflation, governments having really high debt. Crypto has the potential to solve a lot of these problems. And if we can use games and nostalgic experiences to introduce crypto to the world, then we're actually doing something way beyond gaming, right? So that's why we believe that our mission is way more important than just making games that people love and have fun with. There's a chance to actually be a part of history. You guys are all part of that. So that's also why when we think about like daily active addresses, right, and transactions, when we think about the Axie metrics, because right, it's also about onboarding people to the technology and having them use it on a daily basis. And yeah, this part of why I was recognized as a doctor, right? Like they're saying that this work that we're doing is so important that that I'm worthy of being a doctor, I guess. So it is really important. And if you guys read the attestation or the thing, it said basically, right, like I was awarded that honor because of the work we've all done together to onboard millions of citizens of LATAM or South America to this very important technology. So even governments, right? UNESCO, which is basically a UN-backed organization, recognizes the power of our movement. So let's keep going.
That's amazing.
So yeah. Anything you want to add, Trung, or should we move on?
Yeah. Well, from a development perspective, right? Because I work closely with the development team, we also see the bounty board as a way to unify different products. Because if you think about right the state of Axie before the bounty board, different games, different experience, trying to get their own users in different ways, right? And then seems like people have different ideas about the game that they like, right? Sometimes they only want to play classic, sometimes they only want to play origins, depending on their taste, depending on their preference. But right, making sure that we can cross pollinate, we can do like some sort of like sharing the player base between different games, so that at least people have some choice, right? It's its own self. Well, I would not say that it immediately make sure that games are aligned, right? But at least we push it forward so that eventually um, games serve the ultimate purpose of right creating more value for Axie as a whole. So yeah, not only that, right? From a user acquisition perspective, right now we are able to direct people through different Axie experience whenever we need the flows of users the most. So it's not only right providing rewards to people. I don't think it's also a way for us to make sure that we improve the efficiency of the playtime for Axie users. So yeah, I mean a little bit abstract.
Wonderful. Thank you, Trung. Well, almost 100,000 weekly bounty board participants is very, very bullish. But up until this point, we've mainly been focusing on stuff that's already come out over the past year. Is there potentially some information, some upcoming leaks on things that we can look forward to in the future? And we've already mentioned, I think, Axie delegation. Is there anything else we want to touch on there, or?
Yeah, I mean, so I think we can give some more updates or color around this anticipated release. And so if everything goes according to plan, we will launch it in 2 phases. So the first phase will be the ETA for that is before the end of September. And basically that will involve something called the Delegation Center, which will allow you to manage and treat all your delegated Axies from one place. You'll be able to delegate multiple Axies to one address. And this, right, like will basically like launch kind of in unison with Homeland's adventure feature for Axies. Phase 2, so the ETA for this is by the end of the year, and this will also involve a rental marketplace offers, as well as so basically a marketplace and different and the ability to actually make offers. Right, so there's kind of actually two models, right? So one model is, right, like you basically just delegate and you share rewards. Another is a little bit more similar maybe to the loot rush model, right, where you basically people can make offers to pay you for your Axies. So I like both models actually, right? And I think both models kind of have different use cases or strengths and weaknesses. So it seems like the team wants to basically tackle both of them.
There's also the third model in which you give or delegate the access to others without like the rentee
Mm,
paying anything,
mhm,
but you expect the rentee to provide your access with some like values like AXP,
mm,
so that one side has the access
mm,
to play games
mhm,
to try out different experience. The other side has the AXP or any kind of value that comes together with the utilization of the access. So yeah, we discussed within the team, and access delegation is actually a very big project, a very big initiative, because of the complexity of needs, right? Sometimes you want delegation because of the condition, right? What's the condition? Like in classic, you're expected, right, to be in the same guild so that you can, right, get the access from others, so that you can delegate access to others. Sometimes it's complex because of the consequence, right? Is that a transaction, right? Am I supposed to pay something in order to get some access from others, right? Whether I need to share the revenue with the people who own the access, and different form of revenue, right? Could it be some resources you earn from playing the games, or could that be like rewards from competing and being at the top of the leaderboard? That count in rep share? So that's why we decided to go step by step, right? And the initial scope is to think about delegation as a primitive factor, right? So that, well, the simplest form of it is to simply delegate like an NFT, right, an asset to others, and then from that we could think about more, um, use case for Axie delegation, and even like other asset delegation. Um, I also told the team that this is a big scope. Like, so if, let's say, if we want to tackle the rental marketplace, rental offers, and also others utilities of delegation, right? Like sharing revenue, like creating some sort of marketplace for AXP writing. That it's already like delegation is already big of its own. So these are the two phases, right, that we um, conceptualize the features we want to build, but also at the same time, right? I think from now until the end of phase two, there could be some changes along the way. So that's to explain, right, the complexity of the features, and also I think we would want to have more feedback regarding Axie delegations to make sure that, right, with the most optimized effort, we can implement what is needed for the community.
Super exciting to see how that'll affect the ecosystem and the meta of the different games. When people have the ability to either be delegated Axies or go put out offers to rent Axies from other people. Very interested and bullish on the future of that. But let's jump over now to the future of fortune slips. What will we see coming uh, for uh, for our daily blessings?
Fortune slips. All right, so this is short and sweet. Basically, so one of the points of feedback that we've gotten around the fortune slip system is that, hey, I paid a premium, and I think that my double mystic, my triple mystic, my quad mystic, whatever, my double Japanese, right? My collectible Axie with multiple parts is more special. Is more special and should get more slips. Well, guess what? We actually agree. So basically, we will. So it's good. It's not going to run a bit better. So basically, yeah, more collectible parts will have higher fortune slips. So that's like a change that we're making to the system. In addition, right? So we also want to incentivize, right, people to evolve the collectible parts on their collectible axes, right? This will increase demand and burn for the radiant shells, which also will help, right, with the economics of the Gruta shop. So basically, yeah, you will also get a bonus in your slip production for each evolved collectible part. So the ETA for this is actually within 2 weeks if everything goes according to plan.
Amazing. I don't think anyone can complain about that one. I think that's good all around. Now these leaks have been kind of niche. You know, we got collectible Axie fortune slips improvements. We've got the Axie delegation. Is there something that we can leak that is more broad that everybody will be excited for?
Yeah, so this is basically right, like the long term leaks, right, or the intermediate to long term part of the conversation. So yeah, there has been some discussion, right, in the chat. I've seen the chat, and people are asking, "Hey, it's been a while since some sort of an event, right? The last kind of event that we had was summer 2022." And so yes, we're here. We're here to confirm that there will be this year, if everything goes according to plan, when the leaves in the west are turning orange, fall. I had to explain to him actually what fall was. I was like, "Oh, I'll probably come to Vietnam in the fall." He's like, "We don't have that in Asia, right?" So in the west, when it's starting to get cooler, we plan to have some sort of an event. But this won't look like past events. It's not going to involve breeding, because we now have dynamic NFTs. We have dynamic axes, and so we're gonna experiment with a new model, right? Something that leans into evolution, right? So yeah, so that I think that we're actually gonna have a meeting right after this to discuss. Shade has been cooking on this, and yeah, I'm super excited. I think it's going to be interesting, and right, it will have a lot of the elements that people love about the breeding events, right? Unique aesthetics, new right, collectible aesthetics, but also right, like also that kind of right RNG element, right, where which I think makes breeding so interesting and addictive, right? It's like sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it's not going to work.
Something
So
really
yeah.
interesting you touched on there was evolution, and I don't think you went into
I
detail.
feel like
But
like I know Trevor. I see Trevor in the audience, right? Like these things have been like kind of soft confirmed a little bit, right? So,
well, look out for that. Everyone get your AXP, get your Axies leveled up. That is very, very exciting. But it's not the only piece of news that we have.
all right. So so the next one is maybe a little bit of housekeeping. We're always looking at how to improve the Axie Discord. The Axie Discord is one of the biggest Discords in the world. I believe the biggest Discord in Web3. It's a whole ecosystem, right? And I think sometimes we can take it for granted, right? Like as we've had to scale our communication, right? We rely more on email, we rely more on social media, but Discord is the heart and soul of the Axie community. I still believe, right? It's where it started. It's where everything began. So we're looking at basically doing some revamps, right? So people like Murray and Nietzsche, the channel mods, they've had like a lot of suggestions that I think we've been too slow in implementing over the years. So we're going to be more aggressive about taking your feedback into cleaning up the Discord, making it more simple, making it more streamlined, and we'll also be launching this kind of new reward system, right? Where basically the top 100, that's the current number, according to the plan. The top 100 members in the Discord, right, based on different measures of sentiment and engagement, will be being rewarded with AXS, right? So we have had some that program, but I think it's there's a lot of room for improvement. So we'll be like basically re-rolling that out to the community. Cool. And then yeah, anything else? Maybe like we can yeah, there's also something kind of like there's something that we're discussing. We've been kind of doing some research on internally. So yeah, maybe Trung is better to talk about this.
So yeah, we started working on, I could say, a new Axie game. Which is an MMORPG, kind of, maybe with some modifications. So it's not entirely a classic MMORPG. I could say more like a modern RPG that fits into the Axie world. But yeah, I think this all started, right, with the events at the beginning of the year when we really had to take a look again at the original vision of Homeland, and also at the same time think very deeply around what is the motivation for Axie owners, and also what's our mission, right, to deliver to Axies, so that we can unify what people want with what is and then what it means to be a big vision for Axie. So I think at the time, right, we were still thinking about how to fix Homeland. And I do think that we have been through a long way since the beginning of the year, delivering on all the items that we mentioned in the founder note. But not only that, right? I mean, behind the scene, I do think that we have more things to consider. How to really, I mean, I'm not saying that we are doing a perfect job at adjusting Homeland, adjusting the sentiment. I do think that there's still a lot of well, mediums and minor issues right now with Homeland. But I think setting a mental models so that the team is not afraid of challenges, right, and that they take responsibility and fix things. It's very important, because I mean it's very easy to scrap something and start over, but the learnings from like actually getting into the issues and fixing those will not be a lesson, right, for the team. So that's why I would say we was very hard-headed on, right, improving Homeland, but that is not mutually exclusive with the possibility of working on something new. So I do think that we have converted a lot of learnings from, right, most notably Homeland, and also other Axie games, and at the same time other games that we have brought onto Ronin, so that we can take advantage of those learnings and put it into what we are working on right now. I think it's still very early to say, and we do want to build this game more publicly. I would say more publicly, not entirely publicly, because there's still some surprise that we want to serve, so that we can like bring you guys some good feeling. But we do want to validate a lot, and it won't be possible without engaging with the communities. So more information on that later. We have thought about the game, like the idea of the new game a lot, but the actual development, I think it started taking place only for like 1 month, even less than 1 month. We do have some I could say, development in our existing games that we can reuse. So we hope that will speed up the process. But my feeling right now, right, our team's feeling right now is we are very excited, but also at the same time feeling very challenging because it is something. This is something pretty big, and not only that, right? The expectations is also high. So we don't want to, right, deliver something half baked, but yeah, we try to balance that with the iteration, making sure that we will not chase perfection, right, and that we can release alongside with the feedback from the community. So that's all I can share right now. Uh, yeah, to not spoil the fun.
Mm.
Amazing. So just to recap, the future of Axie, you can look forward to a new event coming up soon. Is it this year or is it next year?
In the fall, right?
It's in the fall. It's this year. Wow, it's right around the
If
corner.
everything goes according to plan.
Oh my gosh. All right, so brand new event coming up this fall. We've got a brand new game being worked on in the shadows and some rewards going out to the top Discord users in Axie Infinity. That is amazing. Now, we're going to close this out with some of the questions that we got in the Q&A forum prior to the town
Oh,
hall.
one more thing though. I think some of you
definitely.
guys who are following my Twitter, you may have seen that I also announced that we will be debuting and announcing a new sort of Axie experience next week, and it should be playable like pretty hopefully next week. And so I think so Trung mentioned right that we're working on some sort of an MMO. I also think right so there's like a lot to explore. I think a lot of the Axie games so far have been kind of like mid-core in terms of right their difficulty and their complexity, right? So right, obviously like an MMO, right, it sits on kind of like in the far end of the spectrum in terms of like complexity and um, I guess how in depth it is and how much of a time commitment it is. But I think there's also a lot to be explored, right, at the very very casual, right, almost like in the kind of Tamagotchi or digital pet type experience. So let's wait. It's going to be a prototype, and we'll see. We'll see what your guys' response to something like that is. But yeah, if everything goes according to plan, we'll be able to kind of launch that in person in Singapore next week.
That's super exciting. Super exciting. I think everyone has fond memories of Tamagotchi, so I can't wait to see what's being cooked up. So next week, look out for that. All right, now let's jump into some of these questions. We've got the first one here. Any leaks regarding the Garuda Shrine shop revamp?
Garuda shop revamp. Well, not for now. I mean, so basically, I think like one of the things I think like people want to enable delegation, right, for the Garuda shop. So that's something that we've noted. I mean, we already did talk about right, like the updates to the fortune slip emissions, right? So that's kind of like a revamp as well. But yeah, stay tuned. There's nothing like super large.
I think the best chance of getting leaks for the Garuda Shrine shop is to bugging around Jeff K, and then yeah, making sure that he gets into a situation that he needs to reveal something.
Bug Shade is in chat.
All right, so looks like we're gonna have to wait a little bit a little longer before we get more info on that. But stay tuned. The next question from the same asker, actually. Why is Classic getting prioritized, Guild, Land, and Tourneys, even though it doesn't have a burning mechanism?
Classic is starting to experiment with monetization as well, right? Like, so 10% of the proceeds from, for example, the battle pass, right, are going into the treasury, right? So, but I think like when you think about like classic is a game that's great for top of funnel for the rest of the Axie ecosystem, right? Great to get people involved, great to encourage people to get their first set of Axies. And then I think like Origins, I think like so far the focus around recently the focus with Origins is like, hey, like let's try to make it a little bit more like friendly to collectible Axie holders, right, via metamorphosis, and right like make a game mode that might be a little bit more conducive to the way that Origins is kind of set up, or right, it's Origins DNA. So yeah, we're gonna test different things in different games. I think that's to be expected. I don't think that it should be expected. It's too much of a burden to expect that, hey, we experiment with one feature in one game and that it must instantly be rolled out across all things. That's actually right from an R&D perspective. That's actually highly limiting, right? So think about the way that we like build games. It's very related to like cross pollination, right? It's like we try something out. Here, if it's working really well, right, then we can port it to other games, other experiences. But we want to be right, like covering more mileage by testing out different things and different products at different times. So I think it's not necessarily great for innovation to expect that any new thing that we create in any experience must be immediately rolled out across other products immediately.
I think that's a very fair answer. And we're gonna have one more question here, and that is, will there be upcoming Guild Wars in Origin? With all the popularity in Classic, we're wondering if we're going to see some cross-pollination there.
Yeah, so we experimented the guild features within Classic first. We are thinking about making a guild-like features um more on the Axie core level. So that's what we are thinking about right now. I do think that right. It's hard to push every game in all the direction at once. So we're trying to optimize this through effort from different games, focus on one thing that is the best fit for any specific games, and then um, if if that is something that could be applied to the whole ecosystem, we try to live it onto like Axie Core, or making it like a framework so that it could be applied without a lot of customization in other games. So that's the approach right now. Sometimes we also need to right think about the integration effort, whether it goes with the current like aims for any specific games, because sometimes we want to push the competition aspect. Sometimes we want to right have some like PvE features, example, so that we can bring different experience to the games. So I think it's a very complicated process, and sometimes it's not that straightforward to bring something from a game to another. Yeah, it's like playing 3D chess or something in development. But yeah, the end goal is to still optimize so that we can deliver the most in the same time frame.
Great. Thank you for that, Trung. Well, that finishes it for the questions. Do any of you have any closing thoughts that you want to end our conversation with?
Well, yeah, shout out to chat, shout out to everybody watching on all the different platforms, right? So we got hundreds watching in Discord, but also live on YouTube as well as Twitch. So yeah, so thanks to everybody who joined us for this. I think it's always like really special to be back in Vietnam for me, to be hanging out with Trung doing this. And remember, like this is part of our kind of like the new vibe that we're going back to our roots, right? Looking to be a little bit more present, or much more present in the community within Axie. And yeah, I think like we also hinted at some, exciting new developments for the future. I think like the first 6 months of this year were about, hey, let's get Axie back on the right track, right? Let's lay out a path for Homeland, right? Let's get the metrics and the engagement and even things like the treasury revenue trending in the right direction. I think by and large, we have accomplished these things. Now, it's like, okay, let's start experimenting and innovating a bit again, right? Let's do something new. And I think that's part of what we're starting to, start to share with you guys. And yeah, so I'm excited for the future of Axie, and I know you guys are as well. And yeah, let's keep building together. And yeah, it's always an honor to hang out with you guys.
Absolutely.
We're not making an FPS. We will never be an. There will never be an Axie FPS.
Never say never.
There's like actually like some popular Pokemon gun games, right?
Even Donkey Kong had the coconut guns.
Though yeah, actually that was actually a fun mode, bro. Like N64.
Oh
Have
yeah.
you ever done N64 Donkey
Oh.
Kong 64 PvP? Dude, I think I actually might be one of the best in the world at that, to be honest.
I'll bring my 64 over to Vietnam when I come.
Dude, yeah.
Well, wonderful. Trung, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty comfortable talking about Axie a while so that we can share information with you guys. Things are getting very busy as always, but it's even more work right now with the whole Axie team. I do hope that we have a chance to share more with you guys in the next one. But yeah, that's a spirit.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, that basically closes out this town hall. Thank you all so much for joining in, whether you're on Twitch or YouTube or right here in the Discord. This has been a lot of fun and very informative. A lot of leaks to look forward to in the future. So until next time, we'll see you in the arena.
Sure, see you.